I love Path of Exile, but it's far from perfect. Just off the top of my head, I've got issues with the new player experience, the game's difficulty and character balance, casual multiplayer, the reliance on third-party tools, and of course, trade. Now this is gonna sound like a lot of negatives, and you're gonna think I hate this game, but please take what I say in this video under the context that I love this game, and I just want it to be as fun for as many people as possible, myself included. I feel like I have to preface the video by saying that these points I'm going to be bringing up are purely my opinion, and you should form your own opinions about all of this stuff. I encourage you to write out your own thoughts on the matter so we can get some healthy discussion going on and have a bunch of different perspectives. With that out of the way, let's get into it. I'll start off where every Path of Exile player starts off, the new player experience. How many of you more experienced players have tried getting a friend or two into the game recently? And how many of them are still playing? Nobody? Nothing? Yeah, that seems about right. This game is horrible for new players. I mean, just downright not fun. I have the unique position of seeing a lot of comments on my beginner's guide video discussing how difficult and obtuse the game is as a new player. I sympathize with these players because I know from my own experiences trying to get friends into it that the start of the game does everything it can to set players up for failure. Let's do a quick analysis of the very first zone of the game and you'll see what I mean. After creating your character, you wake up on the beach with nothing equipped and you click on this dead guy and pick up a weapon. You then promptly kill your first enemy and receive a skill gem. The game teaches you to place the gem in your socket and then you're free to go wild and kill some enemies. Except guess what? Big mistake. If a player decides to engage in combat with the enemies they will definitely run into here, they're literally setting themselves up for failure against Hillock later on. Hillock has so much health and deals so much damage that a new player that's already used up a couple of their flash charges fighting the monsters is destined to have a bad time. They'll fight Hillock, realize they don't have enough charges, and die. And then they have to run all the way back to try fighting him again some more. This is actually where a huge chunk of players give up and quit. The correct way to play here is to avoid fighting anything that moves, except for Hillock, ensuring that you'll have enough flasks to survive him. Honestly, what the hell, GGG? Would it kill you guys to make this easier? Either give the player more damage or make Hillock deal less, it doesn't really matter. Nobody, and I mean no one, is coming out of that fight thinking, damn, that was a good fight. I can't wait for the next one. This game isn't a Souls game. It's an action RPG with what I consider to be the ultimate power fantasy. New players shouldn't be given the opportunity to want to quit 2 minutes into the game. Okay, let's say the new player persevered and made it to Lion Eye's Watch, the starting town. This is when they'll first encounter what PoE is most known for, the skill tree. Some players will look at this and be excited by the promise of endless possibilities. Most will not. They'll see this massive web of nodes and be utterly overwhelmed by it. When I first saw this 9 years ago, I was actually blown away and excited by it, but I had already played Final Fantasy X before, best game ever by the way, and had experience with its sphere grid leveling system, which was a direct inspiration for PoE's tree. I think that if GGG wants more players to stick around, they need to streamline the tree for the early levels. With the way the tree is currently set up, there are too many branches that a new player can choose from, like these stat nodes that are used as shortcuts for experienced players. An experienced player knows not to take those nodes in the early levels and that they're mostly used late game for min-maxing purposes, but a new player has no idea. They see intelligence and think, I'm a caster, I guess intelligence will be good, right? These nodes just add more opportunities for new players to mess up. I think that the less choices new players have, the more choices they'll make before quitting. And since this game is free to play, isn't that the goal? To get new players to stick around for as long as possible so that eventually they'll feel compelled to spend money on it? Listen, I could go on obsessing over every little thing that I think ruins the new player experience, like how some skill gems are just trash compared to others. But I'd be sitting here for hours, and it all boils down to the same thing. Make the game easier for beginners to get into. Make it almost impossible for a new player not following a build to screw it up entirely and get stuck somewhere. I don't mind if things pick up in difficulty in the endgame, but please, make the campaign as enjoyable for new players as possible. They have it rough considering all the different systems that have been added to the game over the years. If you're interested in hearing more about the new player experience from an actual new player's perspective though, check out my buddy AdJack's excellent video covering exactly that, link in the description. So I've touched on difficulty in the campaign already, what about during the endgame and boss fights and all that? Well, let me start with the positive. I think that bosses are actually in a pretty good spot in terms of in-game difficulty. I think that they pose a solid challenge, especially to players that are encountering them for the first time, and I think that for the most part, the pinnacle bosses are pretty fun. That being said, I do have an issue with them, and that's their availability. Invitations, fragments, Maven's Writs, all of these systems take too long to acquire for your average player. I know that I can just farm my tier 16 maps for an hour or two and I'll be able to afford them by trading with other players, but your average player? They've worked their butt off to get these items the normal way through RNG, and now they're expected to waste it on trying to learn the fight without knowing if they'll actually be able to complete it or not. No, the logical thing to do in that scenario is to just sell the keys to someone like me who already knows the fight. They then receive some currency and get to buy some upgrades for their build, and maybe they'll try the boss next time. Except that they won't, because the cycle repeats over and over. The only way to learn these fights is to actually go into them and be okay with wasting these keys, potentially several times. This process feels awful, and to be honest, I don't know what the ideal solution is. Maybe just make these fragments and invitations more common so that players don't automatically feel like the smart thing to do is to just sell them to the more experienced players. Or maybe something else. If you've got ideas, I'd love to hear them. What about the actual mapping experience? One word: degens. I didn't like playing the floor as lava as a kid, and I sure as hell don't like playing it now. Honestly, this is just annoying, and the fact that GGG keeps introducing new varieties of chilling ground each league is undeniable proof that they don't want you to have fun. Jokes aside, beyond degens, I think the biggest issue while mapping is the fact that standing still for a fraction of a second will get you killed. And that's exactly why the most popular meta builds, especially league starters, are builds that involve having something other than your own character attack all the enemies for you while you just run around trying to dodge everything. I'm talking totems, brands, minions, and traps, you know, the usual. The game seems to be balanced around these builds, and I think the result is a game that can be very frustrating if you're not playing one of them. I wish that PoE was a game where all the different archetypes had an equal footing in terms of survivability and damage output, but I accept that that's never going to happen and is an unreasonable request. There will always be builds that are better than the rest by a mile, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Here's something that I don't think gets enough attention in PoE these days: multiplayer. When did people stop making public parties for everything? It used to be that there would constantly be groups of strangers leveling together either through the campaign or even in maps, but nowadays I find it extremely rare, and I think I know why. Efficiency. We used to farm Dried Lake or Docks or even the Fellshrine Ruins over and over before entering maps in random parties. It was efficient to do so. Someone would be playing a character that could clear entire screens worth of mobs, and you'd be doing your best to keep up with them to make sure you're still getting experience. Nowadays, if we were to try to do something like that, you'd have one dude that could literally clear the entire zone in probably seconds, and the others would still be stuck at the beginning. The power gap between these players is so huge that it's just not fun for anyone. Everyone's in this mindset of playing efficiently to make as much currency per hour as possible with the latest and greatest Atlas strats that their favorite streamers are promoting. Why would you join somebody's party for some random Alchemgo maps that might even have mods that are too dangerous for your build, if you could be doing something that you've tailored to your tastes and your character's strengths specifically? There isn't any, and I think that sucks. Call me crazy, but I miss playing this massively multiplayer game with other players. A couple weeks ago, someone on my friends list asked me if I could help them do their first Uber Elder. Since I have this solid Molten Strike character I had decked out, I of course said sure thing, and we both entered the fight together. It was total chaos. I died like 3 times because I'm super squishy and there were degens all over the place, but we did manage to beat them, and it was probably the most fun I had all league. We need more of this. Friends are what keep us playing games. Why are the devs so concerned about player interaction a la trade when they should be trying to promote party play? Unfortunately, I don't know how this can be fixed, since it seems to be mostly caused by a shift in how we as players choose to play the game, and not because of some direct change that the devs implemented. And yes, I know that playing in duos or big parties is actually the most efficient way to play and make currency, but that requires a ton of knowledge and time investment from all the players involved, and it's just not at all what I'm trying to talk about here. I'm trying to promote casual drop-in, drop-out party play. Maybe it's just me and I'm not trying hard enough. I just feel so alone when I'm playing now. Maybe that's why people get attached to watching streams while they're playing, because it's comforting to have that interaction with other people, even if it is just mindlessly spamming Twitch emotes. Here's a pretty big problem the game has: its reliance on third-party tools. Path of Building, Excellence Next, Awaken PoE Trade, The Wiki, Craft of Exile, Better Trading, PoE Lab, PoEDB, TFT. Look, this has gotten insane, dude. Is this a video game where I get to have fun for a couple hours, or am I secretly still stuck in university writing a paper that I left for last minute, just trying to meet that ridiculous word count my professor insisted on and bullshit my way to an A? In isolation, all of these tools are great, and were all made with the intent of making the in-game experience better for everyone. But now there are so many of them, it's gotten out of hand. Hot take, but this stuff should be in-game or it shouldn't exist at all in my opinion. I was fine with a couple of these existing, Path of Building is excellent and the wiki answers a lot of questions, but every league, more and more of these become relevant and players that are trying to be efficient are expected to be familiar with most of these tools and websites just because everyone else is using them. I don't enjoy looking up the list of mods on Path of Exile to figure out the best way to craft a certain item, but I sure as hell feel like I'd be stupid if I didn't do it. I feel like this issue has only gotten worse over the years, and it just sucks that nothing is being done about it. And to everyone involved in making these tools a reality...
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. I get why you do what you do. You're providing a solution for players to make the game more enjoyable, but here's the thing. That shouldn't be left up to you. It's on the devs to make a better game, not you. You guys are enabling GGG to keep on introducing obscure mechanics to the game the way they have been for years, because someone will come along and make a tool to simplify it. Regarding trade, what is there to say that hasn't already been said over and over? The current state of trade sucks. Nobody has fun trading. Not a single person. Not even the bots have fun trading. You know, because they don't have emotions as far as I know. Give us an auction house, a trading post, let us have a little shop set up in our hideouts so trades can still happen while we're in maps or something. Anything would be better than what we currently have, where we spend so much time just whispering people over and over, praying that they'll respond to us, so we can just get back to the fun part of the game. At this point, I don't care what the solution is, just make it better. Lastly, I just want to touch on the future of Path of Exile and what we've all come to accept as Chris's vision. For one, I think that the 3-month league schedule is really showing its cracks. It's abundantly clear every league that the devs do not get enough time to think their new additions to the game through before starting working on them. Somewhere, somehow, ideas are being approved without a real critical look at how things will play out from the player's perspective. Most recently, I'm referring to the implementation of the Arch Nemesis monsters. These were reintroduced to the game as being a net positive for players. Look, it might take you a little bit to become familiar with what all these new modifiers mean, but in the long run, you'll be able to identify them super quickly and be able to react accordingly, unlike our old system. Well, here in the real world, nothing good has come of it. Ignoring that these monsters were extremely overtuned at the start of the league, all of the annoying old mods that rare monsters used to have still exist. They're just hidden in the new ones. These were meant to replace the old system, instead they just made things more confusing and frustrating for everyone. What was the point? Look, I won't pretend to know how much more time GGG would need between releases to actually iron that stuff out before the public is playing them, but this cycle of releasing things that aren't well thought out and then fixing them in patches later on is getting old. As far as PoE 2 is concerned, I do have some concerns. Visually, PoE 2 looks great, and I have no doubt that the new campaign will be excellent the first time through, maybe even the first few times through. But unless PoE 2 is coming with another revamp to the endgame or introduces some new systems we haven't even heard of yet, I don't think it's going to be the huge game changer that the community is hoping it'll be. Players are going to continue to complain about having to level characters through the campaign each time they want to try out a new build, and until something's done about that, it's never going to change. I also feel like there's this pressure being put on PoE 2 to solve some of the issues I've brought up today, and I think it's a mistake to leave them until PoE 2 comes out. Players are getting more and more irritated with how improvements to the game are being handled, and I hope that GGG considers addressing them sooner rather than later. It's fun to meme about Chris's vision and all, but I'm really not too worried about it. In all the interviews I've seen, and I have seen them all, Chris seems like a really down-to-earth, passionate guy. Now, his ideal vision of the game involves taking everything we dislike about PoE and cranking that up to 11. But here's the thing, he loves his game and wants what's best for it. He knows that that's not the direction the players want the game to go into. That's why he's working so much on hard mode.
Hard mode.
Maybe I'm full of hopium, but I don't think that the vision will interfere with Path of Exile that much anymore. Also, I just want to buy Chris a beer one day, so I don't want to close that door just yet if I can avoid it. Like I said earlier, it's totally fine to disagree with anything that I said here. I just wanted to give my opinion and start some discussion about it. I know I probably came off as being really unhappy with the game right now, but I really hope it's clear to you that I wouldn't care to make this video if I didn't love the game already. I mean, who in their right mind would play a game for thousands of hours if they're not having fun? You weren't supposed to see that.